guys, so I'm here today to let you know about my most anticipated releases for the second half of 2017. Now, it's kind of past the halfway point of 2017, so this is, you know, 5 and a bit months worth of the year, but there are a few books that are coming out in the second half of the year that I didn't know about when I was doing my most anticipated releases of 2017 video, so I wanted to film a separate video letting you know about the books that I cannot wait for the release of in the next few months, and there are some here that I am, you know, unexplainably excited about. So without further ado, let's have a look at the books, shall we? So first up is a book that I didn't know was even going to exist until a couple of weeks ago, but was so thrilled to see on my Twitter feed, and that is Pride, the inspiring true story behind the film. So Pride is a film that came out a few years ago. It's one of my favourite films of all time. I'd recommend you all watch it, and it follows the true story. It's not a documentary, it's, you know, a film adaptation of the true story of LGSM, who were Lesbian and Gays Support the Minors, a group that, you know, came to being during the 1980s miners' strike, and how they saw in the miners something they saw in themselves, and showed the utmost solidarity with the miners by going out of their way to raise money for them and, you know, help support them in their time of need. And it is a beautiful story of solidarity, all the more wonderful because it is a true story. And although the miners did not win their battle, it's still a beautiful story. And I find it really inspiring and empowering, and I love the film, so I'm so excited that there's going to be a non-fiction book telling the story of the real people that were involved, both the miners from the Welsh town that they assisted, as well as the members of LGSM, and all of their different perspectives on what happened. And I'm just so excited about this book, guys. And that comes out on the 10th of August. Now the next book comes out on the 18th of August, and it is a collection of poetry. It is the second full collection of poetry by Megan Beach, and it is called You Sad Feminist. So I read Megan Beach's other collection of poetry last year, I think, and that was called When I Grow Up I Want to Be Mary Beard, and it was phenomenal, one of my favourite collections of poetry, and I think a really accessible poetry collection that a lot of you will really enjoy, so one I definitely recommend you check out. But of course I'm super excited for her second collection to be out, and this one obviously deals with feminism, but it also deals with depression, so I think it's going to be a really interesting combination of themes, and I think Megan Beach in her poetry manages to articulate really important topics and emotions, and I'm really excited to see her do that in a second collection. I loved When I Grow Up I Want to Be Mary Beard, so I'm just thrilled that she has a second collection coming out. To rewind a little bit, the next book on my list actually comes out in a few days. It comes out on the 25th of July, and that is Gather the Daughters by Jenny Melamed, and this is a new dystopian novel, and this one specifically takes place on a small isolated island. It's a feminist dystopian, I guess it's been described as, and it follows the population on this small isolated island that are cut off from the rest of the world, so I'm not really sure what's going on in the rest of the world because I haven't read it yet, where they live by an aggressive patriarchal system where the women are raised to serve the men. And I like the concept of this dystopian because it has that setting, which I don't think I've read a dystopian or a kind of feminist dystopian set on, so I think that's going to be a really interesting, you know, foundations for this world and this speculative future, and I've heard really good things about it so far, so I'm really looking forward to that one. Next is a book I actually already have a proof copy of and I'm in the process of reading, but is not out yet in the UK, and that is American War by Omar El Akkad. This one's already out in some countries but comes out in the UK on the 7th of September, and it's another dystopian-esque speculative future novel set in the 2070s and 2080s and 2090s going forward. It follows the Second American Civil War, obviously set in the future. And this time one of the main instigators of the Civil War is a dispute about sustainable fuels, although there is of course more going on than that. All of these things are a culmination of lots of different issues, and it's such a fascinating book. I'm really enjoying reading it. And I love the structure of it because it's littered with these historical documents, which are obviously fake. They've been written to go alongside a story that obviously hasn't happened because it's set in the future, but I think that's a really interesting concept, that you have these articles and interviews kind of inserted into a story that follows one girl predominantly. It gives you an idea of what's going on in the wider world and what instigated the war, how it unfolded beyond this one girl's experience, but then you also have this central character to follow. And I just think it's a really, really interesting concept. Really enjoying it so far and can't wait to see how things come out at the end. The next book comes out on the 2nd of November and it's a new book by Han Kang to be translated into English, and that's The White Book. Han Kang is the author of The Vegetarian and Human Acts. She's written many other things as well, but they haven't been translated into English yet. She writes in Korean. She is a South Korean author, and I adored The Vegetarian. You've probably seen it all over the internet and booktube. It won the Man Booker International Prize. It has had praise heaped upon it, and I certainly agree with that praise. I think it is a phenomenal novel, and I'm so excited for another work by her to be available in English. The White Book is something a little bit different, as it is a study on the colour or the shade white. Apparently it also has autobiographical elements, so I'm imagining I'll learn a little bit more about Han Kang's life through this work, and yeah, I guess it's going to have a really interesting structure. I'm really intrigued to see how it manifests itself, but I'm sure I'm going to love it because I love Han Kang, so can't wait for that one. And last but certainly not least is The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night by Jen Campbell. This book also comes out on the 2nd of November, and it is a collection of short stories with fairy tale-esque elements to it. They're almost like modern day fairy tales, and they are just beautiful. I haven't read the collection as a whole, but Jen is a friend of mine and I have read bits and pieces and individual stories during her writing process, and I have been so excited for this collection to come into existence since she has been sending me bits to read because they are truly beautiful. This is Jen's first kind of fictional work to be published. She has 3 non-fiction books, a collection of poetry, and soon a children's picture book. But this is her first complete collection of short stories to be published, and her writing is stunning. And I know that sounds silly coming from me as her friend, but if you know me, you know I'm the world's worst liar. So all of this gushing is very genuine. I am absolutely, you know, ecstatic about this book coming out. I'm so excited to read it because it is beautiful, and like I said, I've read bits of it, but I've not read it as a whole, or perhaps some of the stories, so I'm really excited to get stuck in and get to experience the final product. Not only are these kind of modern day fairy tales, they also quite often deal with the theme of othering. That's everything I wanted to talk about in this video. These are the books that I am the most excited for, if I haven't used that word too many times in this video yet. I'm sure there will be more books that come out in the next 5 months that I will be intrigued by, but those are just the ones that are at the top of my list at the moment and will be getting my hands on copies of if I don't already have them. But do let me know if you have any books that are coming out in the next half of the year that you're really excited about. There's always books coming out that you just never hear about, that go completely under your radar and you need somebody else to tell you about, so I'd love to hear from you. I'd also love to hear from you if you have any thoughts on the books I've mentioned in this video. Are you excited for any of their releases? But until next time guys, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye!